Has Star Wars outgrown the Force? Rogue One, a happy, scrappy ending? And this spaceship has no leaks. Jedi Council's here.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Collider Jedi Council. I'm me. You're you. And thank you so much for joining us on today's show. We are just around 2 weeks away from Star Wars Celebration. All the big news coming in fast and furious, and we are going to talk about it. And what a crew to talk about it with. Miss Fyffe Diaz herself. Emma Fyffe is here. Hello, Emma. How are you?
Hello. I'm great, Kristian. How are you?
Good. It's nice to have you here again.
It's really nice to be here.
It's going to be crazy, man. We got a lot of cool things happening. If you guys didn't know, the Jedi Council will be at Star Wars Celebration on Sunday at the podcast studio. I believe that is around 2 o'clock. We will also be doing a Schmodown on that Friday from the fan stage, and the winner of that Fatal Five-Way will play Alex Damon on Saturday night at the Athenaeum Theater in Chicago. Listen to this, 8 p.m., already 850 tickets sold.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. The Schmodownlive.com, there are really only like 15, 20 seats left, which is nuts. They keep extending it a little bit, but I don't know how much more time. So this isn't like LA where you can wait until the end. They're going to be sold out. So if you want to go, there you go, Schmodownlive.com. But we are not here to just talk about that. We are here to talk about Star Wars with one of the best. He's got a book. It's Ken Napzok.
Hey,
Ken.
yeah, Why
Where's
We
your
Love
book?
Star Wars. You can pre-order that now on Amazon. But Kristian, more importantly, I just got my first save of my 2019 fantasy baseball season. Thank you to the Nye Mets.
Oh,
You are my
right.
second favorite
Didn't you
baseball
have you had
sport.
your draft on Saturday?
That's why I missed most of the free-for-all.
I know.
28th year in a National League only fantasy baseball league.
But you made it.
Wow.
Made it. We ended up having a lot of fun at the free-for-all,
Yeah.
but also had fun drafting my team. No Angels because it's National League only.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yankees
Cody
are doing
Hall.
good, by the way.
Yeah, I saw Voight. All right,
Yeah.
welcome to Collider Baseball Talk.
Okay, listen. Let's talk about the start of this whole thing. What we always do, if you're tuning in, you know that this is all about what? Hit me, Adam. Star Wars movie news. Everything in the world of Star Wars that is the movies. Kenneth Napzokian, what do you got?
All right, let's start with this. So this is like a slow start to the day. Do you want to? We're not going to be talking about the thing a lot of people think we'd be talking about because it's not official. When it's released on a little thing with the StarWars.com or Star Wars with the blue check, we'll talk about
Because
it.
the chances are they're going to release a lot of stuff at the celebration.
Yes.
So we'll figure out, that's when we will talk about it. We'll see if these things are official. And when that happens, then we're going to dive into it. But until then, we got 2 weeks. We can wait.
2 weeks. Oh my God, 2 weeks. Hey,
weeks.
so as we know, Disney, as they continue to take over the world, has purchased Fox. A lot of people, losing their jobs. That say sometimes the name of the game. I don't cry too much for Argentina, but at the same time, it is sad. But there is one question. I think, as a Star Wars fan, let's just put the reality of the merger aside. That might, be upsetting some people in town. Talk about this thing. A lot of people ask. Disney buying Fox. Fox had the rights to New Hope, some of the original cuts of Star Wars. Would they ever release that? Would George ever let it? Does George have that decision? And it looks like we might have the official
Answer? What is it?
I always hesitate to say official because anything could change. That, hey, maybe they could, but they won't. That's where we're at.
Sounds about
Yeah?
right, unfortunately. Because here's the thing, is that my dream, obviously, is that we would get beautiful remastered Blu-ray releases of the original cuts of that original Star Wars trilogy. I mean, we had, growing up, the big Laserdisc set that came, it was this big box set,
I remember,
and most of them were on two
Yeah.
Laserdiscs. Well, New Hope was one, and then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were both on
Right,
two
right.
Laserdiscs. And I still remember we had to switch the Laserdisc on Return of the Jedi because I watched it so much. But I do feel like one thing that is both admirable and infuriating about George Lucas is he stands by whatever decisions, changes, etc. that he has made, and he doesn't go back on them. So to me, it makes sense that he would say something to the effect of, well, no, because this is the way it is now, and so this is what's official.
Well, the first, you got to remember here, the thing is, George Lucas has no say.
That is fair.
He has no say. Well, now, what I do believe very much so is when this deal was made, he said, in good faith, handshake, that the only thing I'm asking is don't release them.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. Now, did that happen? I don't know, but it could have happened. And a handshake with Bob Iger and Lucas carries some weight. And so that's why. Could it happen legally? Yes. Will it happen? Probably not. Because, again, do you want the bad press? Because when George Lucas has the bad press out there for the Star Wars stuff, when he did for The Force Awakens when it came out and all that stuff, it carries over and it's like, oh, man, now I got to clean that up. It's like, would it be great? And would you make a lot of money off of it? Yes, you would.
Oh, yeah.
But is it worth the headache? Maybe to them it's not. And maybe it's not necessary because they're making money hands over fist with everything else. So, Ken, do you think we're going to see them anytime soon?
Yeah, you can. If you want to come to my house and watch the VHS copies.
But not the Blu-ray.
About the new Blu-rays. Look, I understand the desire for it. There's those despecialized editions out there.
Yes.
You can grab those on the black market in the alleys behind convention halls. I understand it. But I also understand George, our friend Chris Taylor's book, How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. The first weekend the movie was out in theaters, George made some changes. He was unhappy with something. It's just his nature as an artist, it seems. So I kind of, whether you begrudgingly sometimes, because I don't like a lot of the special edition changes, but actually I do like a a lot of them. I actually think Empire benefits from
absolutely benefits. Yeah.
Jedi rocks in Return of the Jedi is my least favorite sequence in all of Star Wars.
Not good.
I don't like the feed me Seymour Sarlacc pit.
That's exactly
all
right.
that kind of stuff. But I don't worry too much about Hayden being put in like blinking Ewoks, all that stuff. It doesn't waylay my passion for the movies. But I'm glad I would like this to hold up. I'm monologuing to say keep George's dream alive.
Yeah, well, I would love to see them. I'd like to own them. I would like to own them, but the Jedi is really the only one to me that is really ruined by it.
And I think that is for me why I feel so burned is because, I watched these movies when I was so young. And so Return of the Jedi to me, especially with so much of the story being about Leia and also I love Ewoks. I loved Ewoks as a child. So I did feel very burned by Return of the Jedi specifically. But I do see your point 100% that, New Hope, okay, the stuff with Jabba and Han Solo in the beginning is a little.
That was a scene that was shot with a human. That it looks terrible, and that is a really bad scene. And look, the other stuff to where the prequels as themselves, they hold up because everything is consistent.
Yes,
if you grew up with them, it's consistent. They all look the same. But that scene when they go to Mos Eisley and they see the Jawa hanging up, that looks right out of the prequels, and it doesn't fit because it's two different styles of movies, and it's jarring. So, but it's not as bad as. No, that's what I mean. I know that's the
second. We talk about when he kills the Emperor.
Jedi, yeah. I'm doing the hand motion just because it's the same type of no. But the other thing is to Kenobi scream in the New Hope, the drunk NASCAR fan. It's like, what happened to the original dragon? It's like that scream is awful.
Some of the like ADR animal, for lack of a better term, noises that they used, you're like, but why?
Right. So, but the answer is you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, it's true.
They don't ruin.
They definitely don't ruin it. No.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't think we're going to see them, whether Fox has it or not. I just think that it was a deal that was made with George Lucas. He said, "I don't care. You have my property. You can do whatever you want. Just keep my vision." The visions that I did with these re-edits, that's the Star Wars I would like to, as the creator, I would ask you to keep those out there, and it seems as that's what they're going to do. Yeah. So, all right, what's next?
All right, let's talk a little Rogue One here. Actually, this kind of stuff has emerged before, but I love little details, and it also gives us a chance to talk about the third act of Rogue One, which I think some of the finest Star Wars that ever Star Wars, and Chris Weitz, who took over the script duties for the Star Wars standalone film after Gary Whitta was originally hired for the job, and Whitta went on to do some great Star Wars writing for Marvel, some of their comics. He was talking about how it had a happier ending, but which we've heard different versions of before, but this is the new detail. As a matter of fact, it ended with a wedding. I think it was on the presumption that Disney wouldn't allow characters to die with such abandon. We know this story went through a lot of changes, including a director change, Tony Gilroy coming in, and might have been responsible for a lot of what we saw in the third act specifically. But I think it's a good chance, Kristian, to talk about the ending of Rogue One, how they committed to the sacrifice and committed to kind of the darkness in a franchise that's often built on joy. What do you think about all
Rogue
this?
One needed a dark ending. It needed a dark ending, a wedding. I mean, who's getting married?
That's what I was wondering,
I
too.
was thinking it was K2SO and Baze Malbus.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
perfect.
No, I don't know. Is it set up that it was Jyn Erso and Cassian? I mean, I don't know.
I didn't really see that as a love story. I saw that as a really interesting friendship dynamic that developed over the course of the film.
I agree in the version that we saw, but
Yes.
maybe this other version, put them in that path, and I'm glad that they didn't. I think that wasn't the point of this movie. The point is sacrifice. The point is that when we get to A New Hope, we're in trouble here as rebels. If you're a rebel, you're getting hunted down. You're in trouble, and that is exactly how I felt at the end. Now, the original ending that I had heard of was that Vader kills everyone.
Right.
Like
He's the one that kills
everyone.
characters.
He's not.
Yeah.
It's not that deep impact. Okay, good. We're sitting on the beach and everything's just kind of now we're dead.
Yeah.
It's no. Vader killed everybody.
Dang. Yeah, I had also heard, and I cannot remember the source, that there was a version of the ending where, like, Jyn and Cassian didn't die.
Yeah, I've heard.
Because, I mean, they were the last ones standing. But I agree with you. I love the ending of Rogue One. I think that it ended exactly the way that it needed to. I'm extremely entertained by this wedding ending because in my brain, I'm just envisioning like a Jane Austen ending where just everybody gets married.
Right.
Everyone gets married and lives happily ever after.
Here's what it was on the beach. It was Cassian. It was Cassian and Jyn. Orson has a change of heart. He's like, I'm also licensed to marry people.
And you have Saw Gerrera doing the ceremony.
Saw Gerrera just emerges out of the ocean.
Yeah.
He was alive the whole time.
Keep the love alive.
Say I do.
The Boar Gullet was the best creature. So
Worse.
Yeah. They also talk about how maybe the deaths were parsed out a little different in the story there. But again, I think we all agree, and I think a lot of fans. I hear often a lot. Hey, I like the sequel era, but I think Rogue One's my favorite. We hear that a lot, and I think because it doubles down on the action. That third act, that fight's great.
Yeah,
And
it feels
nice to
the
have a little-
most like an original Star Wars movie that we've seen in a long time.
I completely agree, and I think Kristian, you really hit the nail on the head with talking about how the ending of Rogue One it feeds in emotionally so well to where we start in A New Hope, because you know how terrible it's been and truly what sacrifices were made in order to get the information on the Death Star plans to the rebellion. So Rogue One really works for me. I love it.
It is to me. It's one of the best prequels, if not the best prequel that we've had, because it just feels like an episode. It feels like the episode right before 4. It just does. It fits in flawlessly, and I don't think having a happy ending works because this is why. Because a lot of times, especially me, I give the story group or the directors guff because they're not paying attention to the story group enough and connecting things. That's not the case with this movie. This movie, out of all of them, did it the most with Saw Gerrera using him from the Clone Wars. Being able to say, listen, if we keep them alive, where are they?
And that is the big question. Is there? In my mind, it was a lot of the conversations I think that were happening around the time that Star Wars Rebels was coming to an end of, well, we know something pretty major has to happen to a lot of these characters because they're not around in the original trilogy.
Right.
And I thought that they did a very good job in Rebels of kind of explaining why that was. And, the Rogue One solution was to honestly kill everybody off, which I, even going into it, did not expect very much for the same reason that I think that the script originally had a happier ending, which was they're not going to do that. It's Star Wars.
It's funny because I was the opposite.
Oh, interesting.
I said because you got to kill them all. 'Cause if you don't, it's too close to episode 4. There's and it doesn't do justice to the characters to say, oh, well, they just died on side missions. Wait, what?
Sure.
Or they're not around in side missions. They're off doing something else now. No, you committed to us. The whole thing is about sacrifice. They start from, and you get enough from all of their characters, and then you end with them, and it's heartbreaking, but it also leads, fittingly enough, with hope. And that's why I think that the ending was actually done very well, and I'm glad there's no wedding. All right, what's that?
Hey, let's have a little discussion here. This is an article on Slate.com here. I'll bring it up, so give the writer some credit. And it asks this question: has Star Wars outgrown the Force? Marissa Martinelli wrote this article. And, that's one of those things that initially you kind of like, I don't want, it's not clickbaity, but it's one of those, all right, it's pulled me in, but it sounds kind of negative. And she goes on to make some cases of a lot of the storytelling now, including Solo, we know, with the story of Han Solo, he didn't believe. We got Rogue One, Donnie Yen, he talks about ish. But and Star Wars Resistance, the Force has not awoke quite yet, almost, but though it's something in our past. There is this idea that Star Wars stories can exist outside the bubble of the Force, but we also know that lore and Jedi lore and Sith lore is very popular, and a lot of people even kind of want more of it. Sometimes Lucas will give you that, and then it's not what you want because it's maybe too sciencey in people's eyes. So it's a great discussion point, I think, to get us going here on the Force in Star Wars, the importance of it, because it is, but also how much do we need? Kristian.
Listen, I am one of those people that... No, I actually think about this a lot because I have always really, really enjoyed the stories in Star Wars that are not about the Jedi. Hence, my love of Rogue One.
We're similar in that regard. We're similar in that regard.
And so my feeling is, has it outgrown the Force? No, but do I think that now is a great time to focus on telling stories where the Force is certainly present, but we're not focused on stories of people who are Force sensitive or who are Jedi? Yes. That's how I feel.
And you guys are entitled to that feeling. I am on the opposite side of that completely. Not because I disagree, but I think we've done it already. Solo, and we all agree that Solo didn't work, not because it was a fine movie. It's just there's a lot of different reasons why it didn't work, and not being part of the Force, that had nothing to do with why people didn't respond to it. Last Jedi there was things with the Force inside of it, for sure, Force Skype and all that stuff. But
Force Skype,
but not necessarily the kind of focus. Well, I don't know. See, Last Jedi to me was more focused on the Force than anything. So I think that there is a lot of Force inside of that. But I don't think that they're going to go away from it. I actually think they're going to dive right back into it. And I think if this Benioff and Weiss stuff is true, and it is the Old Republic, and we do go back in time with the formation of the Jedi and the Sith, you can't avoid the Force.
No, definitely. And that's the thing is I think when you're going into these time periods that in terms of actual official Star Wars canon are still somewhat nebulous, I do think that the early stuff with the Jedi would be absolutely fascinating to get a story about, which is certainly, I think, what everybody is hoping for in the Benioff and Weiss series. I think that the Force, to me, how much focus I want on it is entirely dependent on the time period you're talking about.
But it also depends on the characters and it's the story itself. Like I don't necessarily think that it would have worked time-wise. It wouldn't have worked in Rogue One. Like even the way that they set up, again, going back and praising Rogue One again, there wasn't a lot of call for it, and when it was Vader at the very end, and that was necessary. But the other things, I just don't think right now there needs to be a strong focus on the movies that they're telling. I think there's going to be a heavier dive into Episode 9 of The Force, because I think that what they're going to do better, to be honest, in my opinion, was to give you guys the stuff that you want, that you love, and to also give me the stuff that I love. I think that it's been a little weighted heavier on your side of the things lately. Now for you guys, that's great. Yeah. But for people who are looking forward, like there was not one lightsaber fight in Last Jedi. There's not one. Like, give me a lightsaber fight.
I would say there was two.
Yeah.
Which lightsaber on lightsaber? No, which lightsaber on lightsaber is a fight?
That's not the point of lightsaber fight. That's not the point. It's
what
what we learn of the characters. We had two.
We had tell yourself that. But we had two. There were no lightsaber fights. There was a guy swinging a lightsaber fight at a hologram, and then there was two lightsabers destroying.
You want clashing blades.
I want an actual fight.
I got Kylo Ren lightsaber fight against
they didn't fight each other.
Guards.
They wreck the guards.
That was awesome.
It was awesome. But it doesn't mean that it replaces an actual lightsaber fight. Like Force Awakens, lightsaber fight.
Oh, perhaps one of the best.
And I think there's going to be some great lightsaber fights in 9.
Oh, I think we're going to get some big
ones. Yeah. But I think, too, that, to that point, how great is the payoff going to be now, having a really great lightsaber fight in Episode 9 since, you felt underserved by Episode 8?
Right. Yeah.
Which a lot of people did.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And I respect that people have different things.
But I don't choose, and I know you don't choose, and you're not saying we're choosing. I as a kid, the Force is this thing with this weird kid Luke off to the side, and and again, is it the main thing? Yeah, he might be the chosen one. Vader's the chosen one. George will tell you Vader's the chosen one. So it's all important. So I always grew up knowing the Force was important. But he's on this side journey, and I was drawn, like a lot of people, to the big fight. So I think there's always a delicate balance. Solo, absolutely couldn't have it because, unless... And I'm actually glad they didn't have some clunky scene.
And they made it Darth Maul for a second, but he doesn't even use it.
But I'm glad there wasn't Han going, I don't believe... I didn't need that.
Yeah.
Rogue One, it wouldn't be present because of the oppression of the Empire. Yep. And push it out. Yeah. Cassian doesn't trust Jedis. But is Benioff and Weiss, are they going to dive into it? Absolutely. Is it going to be 80-20, 90-10? I don't worry about that. But again, look at what's going on in Game of Thrones. A lot of people don't like the magic in Game of Thrones when they were pulled into the show in season 1 because magic's slowly returning piece by piece by piece. I'd be interested to explore that in Star Wars a little bit because are there other religions? And this one seems right. Well, you got these space wizards. They're doing something. What does that mean? It's a little bit like the Lord of Light, R'hllor. Like, well, this is the only one bringing people back from the dead. This might be the religion that works. I'm fascinated with that. Don't get me. I do want to see that play out in Benioff and Weiss series.
Well, we're gonna find out sooner than later, everybody, because it is the end of the year. It's not even a year away.
I know.
Yeah,
nuts.
There's a lot of things in Star Wars that are supposedly really soon that we have basically seen nothing from.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, man.
Well, but we're going to be bombarded with it in 2 weeks.
I know.
Bombarded because you think about it as like, let's say you weren't going.
This is the second to last Jedi Council before we'll be in Chicago.
Yeah. So think about that though. Think about if you weren't going and you're watching, you're just waiting to see what news is going to come out. And on Friday, it's like, boom, here's a trailer. So you're excited all day long. You're just going to be talking about the trailer with everybody, breaking it down. What does it mean? What's that shot? Who's that? Oh my God! Look, that person shows up, and then the poster will officially come out, and then the title will come out. So you'll get all that stuff. That's just on day one. And then on Saturday they're going to hear so much about Saturday about the theme parks. You're going to hear so much about the theme parks, and then you also get Fallen Order that day. So you're like, wait a minute, what's that? So now you have 3 big pieces of Star Wars news a year on Overload, and then the next day you get the Mandalorian. So it's like boom, 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 boom. Is there going to be any other news that pops, like breaking news? I don't think so. I really just think Mandalorian will be footage. Maybe they'll show a couple scenes to people, and we'll probably get a trailer for the series. And I'm okay with that. So you're going to get 2 trailers that people are going to analyze the hell out of. You're going to get the video game that people are going to be excited about. And Clone Wars then comes out, I think, on Sunday as well, too. So it is going to be
it's going to be jam-packed.
Bombarded with stuff soon. Yeah.
I'm a little freaked out. Sorry.
What happened?
I went to the hashtag Collider Jedi Council on Twitter, and there's a promoted Yard House tweet in the middle of that with nothing to do. They must have known where you were having
they got our
lunch
number.
before the show.
They saw us over there. Funny.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Freaking me out. I am excited too that we haven't got a title, all that stuff, and I'm glad they decided to wait, seemingly, unless a week before we get the title.
That's true. All right. Anything else going on?
We got Hayden Christensen is showing up for autographs and photo opportunities at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
Not so much of a surprise, and I don't think that leads to any other casting.
That's what I would tell people, though, too. I'd say that, listen, because they're like, I wonder if this person's going to show up. They have announced everybody that's going to show up.
Yep.
If anybody shows up, they're on the list. So Ian McDermott, whether or not he shows up on the episode 9 panel, I don't know. Probably not. But he will be there. There will be a lot of people that have been part of the Star Wars universe that have been announced. You should check that out. You can go, I think, StarWars.com or wherever. Celebration's on page. You can find out everybody that's going to be there. It's going to be very exciting. And once again, we will be there. So if you're going to be there, please come by, whether it is at the panel, on the fan stage on Friday, or the Jedi Council panel on Sunday. When do you leave?
Not till Monday evening.
I might need you on Sunday for the Jedi Council panel.
I'm down.
Look at that. See, that's how it happens. That's how it happens.
Do we know the time? We might not know the time yet.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock.
It's 2, I think.
2 o'clock. I don't think it'll be me.
2:15 for the Schmodown panel, or the Trivia Masters panel.
Yes.
Sunday is the okay.
Yeah. So okay, good. So that's going to be a lot of fun for you guys to come on out to, and of course Saturday night if you want to watch out. Alex Stamen, who, no offense, one of the best I've ever seen.
He's the reason I'm retired.
He's so good, and to see who's going to be able to battle that maniac on Saturday night in front of 800 plus people is going to be interesting. So schmodownlive.com. Okay, let's move on over. It is time to talk about. Hit me, Adam. No.
Nope.
Well, we got something else.
there it is.
I love. What's the deal with Cannon? Please be nice to Adam. That was amazing. It was like a scene out of Wayne's World. So this is everything that connects to the movies, video games, TV shows, comic books, whatever it is. We're going to talk about it if we can. Ken, what do we got?
Come on down to Noah's Arcade. There's a Wayne's World reference for you. All right, starting off here. This might be minor spoilers. If you want nothing to in your brain about The Mandalorian before it hits, maybe pause for a couple seconds here or stare at something
Station
else other than my gray beard. Werner Herzog, the legendary director, actor, personality, documentarian. He is in The Mandalorian, and he finally revealed a little something in an interview with IndieWire. It's not a ton, not a lot, but he says this is not a secret anymore. A small part, really small part in The Mandalorian, the Star Wars sequel or whatever you call it. I like to do it because I know I'm good on screen, but only if I have to play a real villain. So it looks as though he will be a villain of some sort in a small role, clearly, which is probably what we expected in The Mandalorian. I love that he's just like, I don't know, I'm in a Star Wars thing.
and he'll be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be incredible.
I bet you he's going to be like a gangster or
Sure,
whatever it might
yeah,
be.
like a crime boss.
Something like that, and hiring, whether he hires the Mandalorian or the Mandalorian's going for
Yeah.
revenge against him, whatever it is, Werner Herzog, sign me up.
I really do like the idea of him being like a one-off episode crime boss who the Mandalorian has to do a job for.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Well, did we even talk about I don't know, you might have mentioned it. It might be in the stories. I don't know if we mentioned it last week. Taika as IG-88.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even talk about that
No,
yet.
but interesting note. I was watching the Star Wars show, our friends, the Emmy-nominated Star Wars show, and they covered that news, and they said Taika, in the VO booth in front of an IG series droid, went out of their way to not
Didn't
label it as
say
IG-88. Yeah. Which could mean it is IG-88, and they're just
I hope it's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I hope it's not.
I like to hear this.
Because I don't think you bring in Taika to do a character if you don't want to add a little bit of humor to it. I don't want to see IG as funny. I can see another IG droid as maybe a little humor.
I know what you mean.
But I also don't want to see, like, I thought that his character in Thor was incredible, right? But
it's like Stone Golem character
I
that he
don't want
played.
to see another. I don't want to see another character like that. And I also think that people will be scared when he directs his episode. But the guy understands tone. The tone of Thor Ragnarok. They asked him to do that, and that's what he delivered. He's also done dramas, and he adds some humor into it too. And he'll do the same thing too. He's a really good director. So I'm looking forward to his episode. But I'm also hoping he's not IG-88 because I want IG-88 to just be a stone cold killer.
What it is.
Yeah, just you don't even have to say anything.
It's so I think you're 100% right because when it first popped up and it was IG, we thought maybe IG, easy to assume it's IG-88. I had that thought too. Like, is it beeps, boops, bop? How does IG-88 talk? I can't remember and can't. I know he appeared in a Forces of Destiny episode. But yeah, if it's IG-89 or there was an IG-86, whatever, IG-12, doesn't matter. I could take it more if it's more of a sarcastic or whatever it might be. Or it might just be something straight ahead. I don't know.
Or it could be, or he could wind up being something like HK, was it 47? From Knights of the Republic.
Oh, Knights of the Republic.
Yeah.
Because if he's something like that, to where just like a sinister, because that
I
character's
kind of
funny.
like that idea actually a lot now.
The character's funny, HK-47.
Yeah, even though he is very sinister.
And that's Windig wanted to make Dr. or Mr. Bones that character.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bones is like that too, and you can make the droid. I mean, look, even the evil R2 and evil C-3PO from the
from
BT and Triple Zero.
Yes.
Oh yeah, from the Doctor Aphra. Yeah.
So you can make, and they're sinister, scary, and funny.
Yeah.
So you can do it that way, and if they make him menacing, then and it fits for IG-88, then it just depends on how they execute it. But as far as Werner Herzog goes, I mean, I don't think you're going to hear anybody that knows his work and say, why'd they cast him as a villain?
It's so like not out of left field, but it's like it's different. It's cool because he's as a director more than a performer, but when he performs, he's a good performer. And it's a lot of people thinking he's going to have some weird speeches and everything, but it'll be interesting.
He was really good in that Crap Fest, the Jack Reacher.
Yeah. Okay.
He was really good in that.
It's just interesting. Interesting.
All right, what's next?
We got a couple notes here about they almost made a Star Wars Empire War sequel with EA. The director of the first one talked about that. That's kind of like the Command and Conquer type of game, which I never played this, but I was such a huge fan of Command and Conquer in my youth. Would have been interesting there, but
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I don't either, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but
Now, if they were making a pod racing sequel, then Ken would be your expert.
Racer Revenge is on my PS4 right now, and I'm still crashing as Gasgano. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but if more information coming out, and there's going to be. I don't even know how we're going to all be able to keep up with all the information coming out in the next couple of weeks.
I know.
It's going to be a lot.
It is. It just sounds like I'm so happy. We're all happy to be there, but it's harder to keep up with the news when you're there sometimes.
Yeah,
you're
gonna be checking your phones because you're like, oh, what do we miss? What do we miss today? We're here,
well,
but we
and
missed
especially
something.
because all the stuff on the main stage is being live streamed, you know, so people at home are getting updates as well.
CouchCon is kind of the best thing.
CouchCon is real.
CouchCon is real.
All right,
a couple comics coming out now. Let's get into some questions here.
That's it. We're going to Comic-Con.
Yeah. There's the comics. The Vader Dark Vision series is out. Doctor Aphra 30. I'm still really enjoying
Vader.
the Age of
Vader
series.
over?
Vader is over.
Okay.
Now into this is the Dark Vision series that was originally supposed to be written by Wendig when he was removed.
I got news, by the way.
Yeah?
Canon stuff for us, and I believe they're going to be coming very soon.
Yeah.
And I think there's 3 of them. I think we're getting Claudia Gray's book very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, great.
Within the next couple of days.
Great. I just started rereading Phantom Menace novel. So I'll finish that by the time that comes. Oh, and it's not in the notes. It happened late yesterday. They announced a Count Dooku.
Saw that.
Oh, yeah, I saw
audio.
it too.
It's like an old radio play.
Audio only.
It's only audio.
Oh, that's
an audio
cool.
book, but
Yeah.
essentially done like a radio play.
Oh, I like that.
With Ventress, it's going to be a little bit more about why he switched. I am absolutely a big fan of the character
Yeah, me
Dooku.
too.
Yeah.
Sassy Dooku, if you play him on Battlefront 2, he fights in pajamas sometimes.
Amazing.
So that's going to be interesting. Yeah. Would you be interested in more? I know you listen to audiobooks more than I do, but you like the idea of radio plays coming back?
I love, especially for Dooku. It's like, it feels like it's
Yeah.
And you got Mark Thompson's doing the voices, right?
That's another reason why. Mark Thompson is the best. There is no one that touches what he does. I mean, nothing against even Ashley Eckstein or there's so many people who have done audiobooks, but Mark Thompson is playing on another level. I mean, he goes above and beyond to try to do all the voices. Sometimes he hits and sometimes he doesn't, but he tries. And you can never say the worst one I ever heard was the solo one.
Oh, yeah, I didn't listen to the solo one.
Not so much.
No, let Mark Thompson do all of them. Because that's another reason that I would sign up for this. Not only because I'm interested about Dooku, but the fact that Mark Thompson's doing it. He was the one that he had done the Plagueis. I think he did Plagueis. Plagueis. He definitely did some of the Thrawn ones too. So he's been involved for a long time.
I'm excited. It's something different, something interesting, and give us some other
Have
stories.
you heard him do his stuff yet?
Mostly through clips you've played, everything. I don't listen to audiobooks because
You have to now.
because I just don't have time. My drive is a couple minutes. I work out of home, so but I'm gonna make an effort for the Dooku one. Dooku is one of my favorite kind of underrated characters. I love his story there, and to learn more is going to be interesting there.
All right, cool.
That's kind of it.
That's
for
it.
Canon.
All right.
We can go to questions.
Now we're going to go over to you guys, hashtagging Collider Jedi Council. Whether or not this is from the last week or so or live right now, Ken's going to go through them. He's going to ask some questions. So what do we got?
We got some pre-selected ones, but I'll go with one live. This is from Bador out in Kuwait. Bador, how you doing? She says, people ask for Millie Bobby Brown to be young Leia, which I understand. What about her as a young Padme? The story would be how she became the Queen of Naboo, since Millie looks exactly like a young Natalie Portman as well. So I love the idea of Millie Bobby Brown as a young Leia. We got the Princess of Alderaan book. The Padme book I just finally finished. This is an interesting idea. Yeah. The Rise of Padme.
I would prefer Leia only because you can do a lot more with Leia connecting into everything happening with the rebellion. Because when Padme is going through her queenship and everything too, there's not a lot going on in the galaxy. I mean, we know that
till the end,
Palpatine's kind of playing a game, and he would probably show up, but there's not a lot going on. She doesn't really meet the Jedi. She's super young when it starts.
Because she's only supposed to be 14 in Phantom
like
Menace.
That. Yeah. So, and Millie Bobby Brown is like, what, 17?
I think she's 15.
Whatever it is, by the time they shoot
by the time they shoot it.
It'll be a while, especially if you want to get a couple movies out of her.
Yeah.
Plus, I think that if you know everything that Leia has gone through, I'm more interested in seeing the stuff that I saw in Claudia Gray's novel come to life.
Sure.
To where it's like this. We know she's a Skywalker, and we will know that going in as viewers, right? But
she doesn't know.
She doesn't, and she's trying to become a queen of Alderaan,
Yeah.
and she's got to learn politics, and she's got to become this leader, and there's got to be this hardened kind of strength that we see from the second she's younger all the way through. And I think Millie Bobby Brown would be much better to play that role. And I think that, to me, the most impressive stuff about Padme was just I don't need to see it for Padme. I could read about it, I could hear about it, but I don't need to see a young Padme story.
I agree with you on the Leia point. I think that it would be really interesting to see some of that stuff explored in Princess of Alderaan on screen, but I also am kind of the opinion that I don't feel like I necessarily need to see either of these stories. I would love for Millie Bobby Brown to appear in Star Wars at some point. I think she's a great actress, but as far as I'm concerned, I'd be more interested in her playing an original character.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I love both the ideas. The more we learn about Padme, she's an interesting character. I do agree, though, a lot of the stripe doesn't come in until late in her reign. But in the Plagueis novel, one you and I both like, there's that moment where you see like a young, like 8 or 9 year old Padme Amidala learning. There's something there, so I think Bedore's onto something. But if you're going to cast Millie Bobby Brown, I think the leading contender for me is a young Leia. But again, we've covered a lot of the ground. It would be interesting, though.
Yeah.
I think you would get one shot to do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
What do you got next?
All right, let's go with this one here. This is from Paul Reaper at Reaps11. In the Benioff and Weiss series of films, if the Benioff and Weiss series of films is indeed set in the Old Republic and surrounds the formation of the Jedi and Sith, what are the chances we see Ahch-To and the first Jedi Temple, which also means we might need to see Jedi Prime, which is on there on the little insignia up there up top of the mountain. So what do you think?
So if my predictions for this thing, I've been calling for the last year, that they decide to go and do the Jedi Council and the formation of the Jedi, right? It would be a missed opportunity if they don't show Ahch-To, because they say it was the first Jedi Temple. And it would be a great way for the first time that they start to like MCU this thing and put together this is a tie-in to where this was all set up, and you see that island flourishing with the Jedi. Yeah. And you can even see the caretakers and everything too as they're on this island, learning the ways of the Force, building up, figuring out, starting this religion, starting the rules. And then the opposite is I'd want to see Moraband. And I'd want to see the formation of like how the Sith began. Because what you would do if you did my crazy fan fiction in my head is that you would start the formation of it, and inside of that is where the Sith are birthed.
Yeah.
Like there's somebody inside of that was trained that said, nah, we're too powerful to just be peacekeepers.
Yeah.
Like, let's rule stuff. And they're like, no, the whole point of this is that we're monks and this is what we've discovered this power is all about. No, it's to rule people and kill them. And no, you're evil. We're going to have to take you out. He whatever it might be, takes a few people, because it's not just about one apprentice back then. That was only Bane. Takes a few. They take off, they go to Moraband, they start to learn more of the dark side, and that's where they camp out. So, and that's the beginning of the movie.
That's really interesting to me, because you don't necessarily need to see them. We don't need to get the story where Prime Jedi has used the Force for the first time and they build the temple around that, whatever, because it could already be established.
Right. Yeah.
And what you're describing is the fall of Satan.
Yeah.
Angel to demon, heading to earth, that kind of thing. That's really intriguing. If it's I don't know. Yeah, and the more I think about it, the more I hear your pitch. That's what I'd rather hear than it's the first time someone going, what is this tingly
I
feeling?
hope they don't make Bane the first Sith, though. I really hope they don't do that, because I want him to be in it, but I don't want him to be the first.
Because you want his whole rule of two thing to have been something that was established based, and based on past experience of, no. If we have too many Sith, it's a problem. Like there should only ever be two.
Right.
I really like that idea. It was interesting because Ken, you were talking earlier about the whole idea of how the religion of the Jedi versus were there other religions that were in contention essentially at the beginning of all of this? And I would like to see some of that, but I do agree that starting with the Jedi being somewhat established, that is more interesting than somebody being like, I can push rocks.
And I think even as I say, hey, the Prime Jedi, I would love to hear that mentioned. I think you're right. They would need to. Like if you didn't, it would be really odd.
Well, it just wouldn't go.
If they didn't go to Ahch-To.
It wouldn't be consistent. It wouldn't be consistent with, if they show the first temple, this is the real first temple.
Yeah.
Luke and Yoda didn't know about it.
I don't think they would do that.
No,
I really
don't think so either. It'd be missed opportunity. The only problem is that Skelly Michael Island is a pain in the butt to shoot at. So
and listen, there's a lot of puffins, and you got to replace them with porgs.
I mean, hey, look, we're getting our first porg. This is really a series.
This is really what it's all about, you guys.
The porgs.
Yeah,
the porgs were very essential to the early days of the Jedi.
Well, what if they eat all of them?
I'd be fine with it.
What if they didn't know that they were friendly?
I love porgs.
They roast them with the lightsaber.
But a Jedi roasted porg and a lightsaber?
Yeah.
I'm all
That's
for
what
it.
I mean. And they have friends with Wookiees, and they just have over that Sunday nights they just eat all the porgs.
And then it's just about the porg revenge. And basically, you can't keep them
That's the
down
horror
because
spin-off.
even like hundreds and hundreds of years in the future, they're still there.
I'm fine with all of this.
And you and Ashley Crossan could have a morning session for all the dead porgs. All right, what's next?
Hey, speaking of connected stuff, which is something I know you're interested in, you did touch on how Rogue One did it probably the best so far. I think I'll agree with that there. Mr. Pastry at Pastry Mug asks, hey, do you think we'll see Krennic and Saw Gerrera in the Cassian Andor TV series? Do you want to see that? Do you need to see that? Where are you at with that?
I'd like to. I would love to. I think that you brought Forrest Whitaker in for Rebels. I think he would. I don't think Forrest Whitaker would be hard to get. I think he'd want to do it. The question is whether or not Mendelsohn would do it, and I think that he would, and I think that he could. He's not necessary though. Mendelsohn isn't necessary unless it's like a cool cameo. But he's not necessary to make it because his main directive during that whole time was getting Galen to make the Death Star. That's what his rise to fame for him to be able to overpower Tarkin was that indeed. Now, that's not to say that if you were going to unless you wanted to tell the story of the Empire inside of that series, and Mendelsohn was one of the main guys, and then you'd have to Tarkin it again. Which this time I don't think you necessarily need to do the Peter Cushing stuff. I think you could probably get away with just recasting him this time.
Yeah, I see what you're saying 100%, Christian, but I also think that, and I think this is in line with what you were saying, which is that I don't think this is about the Empire. This is about Cassian Andor. So I don't know that. Again, if we see Krennic at all, it'll probably be a cool cameo. But Saw Gerrera, I think I'm a yes, he should be in it, and yes, he probably will be in it.
It'd be cool. I mean, I do think though the Empire will have a pretty strong presence in this series.
Sure, yeah.
Because I think, again, talk about missed opportunities. I think it would be a missed opportunity if they just focused on Cassian the whole series. I think that by switching in and showing us the inner workings of, because remember where he's at, Cassian, in the beginning of Rogue One. He's kind of like a down the middle character. He can do some pretty despicable things. We've got to see all those reason why he gets there, and we also have to see he's been fighting this fight against the Empire.
I think that there will certainly be characters within the Empire who do play major roles as villains within Cassian Andor. Maybe not even necessarily as villains, maybe as more of a down the middle kind of thing. I mean, sort of like we saw in Rebels with what's his name with the mutton chops. I'm totally blanking on his name. Yeah, with like Callus, who did had sort of a switch. I like it when they humanize people who are loyal to the Empire, because basically the Empire is the ruling body. So there's a lot of people that they just kind of have to do that.
And I've used this example before too, and it's always tricky when I do because you just kind of skate around it a little bit. But in the late 30s and 40s, when the German government was the Nazis, that's who was running it. Now, was every single person in the German army the Nazis? Were they all evil people? No, they fought because they were told to, they had to. This was the organization they were fighting for. Now, were there a lot of people inside of that organization that were downright the most evil people that have ever existed on this planet? Absolutely there were, run by them. And that's essentially what the Empire is. And that is what the Empire was based off of. And what has been so intriguing inside of all the novels and everything too, was like Claudia Gray's novels, was doing exactly what you're saying, is humanizing them and making, even the bad ones, making them realize what, like, it was, what's her face from the Thrawn novel, Sloane, right? Not Ray Sloane. Not Ray Sloane.
Oh, you're talking about Arenda Price.
Arenda Price,
yeah.
She's another one. Like, you understand, she just ends up evil from the whole way through and becomes vindictive, but they tell you why. You understand why she gotten so rotten. And I want to see that kind of stuff. That's what you can do in the television series. Yeah. That's what you could do in Cassian, that I hope they don't just focus on the rebellion side and him. Show me both sides.
I totally agree. I mean, what you're both talking about is getting me really excited for the prospects. We'll see with the showrunner who they're bringing in.
Again, we got. Who they're showrunners from the Americans.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I always we always say, it's like we get these questions every week that are great questions. Will Pedro Pascal, will he be playing Tristan Wren as the Mandalorian? I don't think Jon Favreau is thinking, ooh, yeah, that character from the Rebels, let's put him in here. They're just thinking, let's tell a story.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes
yes.
with Filoni on board,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. But like for the Cassian series, I've mentioned before, I would like to see Krennic, though Krennic and Cassian, maybe they couldn't interact as much, but I doubt Krennic would remember him. I want to see Enfys Nest. I want to see Saw Gerrera. I want to see that kind of stuff. I'd love to see Iden Versio coming up in the ranks. There's all that kind of stuff, but I wouldn't. I'm not expecting that. I'm just expecting what you guys are talking about, some layers to the rebellion.
Yeah, and it's funny because now when it comes to Cassian, I don't know, but with Filoni, I think you're going to see a lot of Rebels references. I think you're going to see a lot of Rebels characters. I think you're going to see, and not necessarily the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
No.
Right. That was what I was going to say. I don't think mains, but yeah.
References,
he's gonna fun,
things that happen that connects into all of his universe. Like he's an executive producer on the show.
Right.
Like there's going to be a lot, and I think that him and Favreau have so many conversations that why wouldn't you listen to Filoni?
Well, here's a question to tag into that to get our conversation even more. Wuxing at OG Wux is in the upcoming Mandalorian series. Do you think there will be any mention or just a slight hint of the Darksaber, which Filoni really took a dive into in Rebels? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like, how dare you ask the question?
I know. No.
Wuxing?
I mean, again, it builds off of exactly what we were talking about, of this idea that Filoni has this, he's so good, because I feel like with Rebels, even though I love Clone Wars, I think and the way that Clone Wars was is, there's all the sort of different serials within it, and some of them are fantastic and some of them are just good. Right. But one of the things I thought he did incredibly well with Rebels, in terms of, which was more of a continuous narrative, was sprinkling in bits of Clone Wars that were very important, but also doing it in such a way that if you weren't super familiar with it, you didn't feel alienated by it. He's so good at integrating his own canon, essentially. Yeah. So, I mean, you better believe the Darksaber is gonna come into play in the Mandalorian.
Will be at least mentioned. There'll be a lot of, because the thing is, you can mention certain characters, very similar like Game of Thrones, that the casual viewer will go right over their head, but it won't hurt the experience for them. And
that happened last night. Grace and I were doing an episode, season 7, episode 6 watch through, and Thoros and Jorah Mormont have a conversation about the siege on Pike, and she's like, "What's the significance?" I was like, "Well, it's a very famous battle."
Right.
And we're the problem.
And she left you.
We're the problem.
Conversation's like,
and we're done.
All right, what's next?
You want to? How many more you want here?
Well, we got time. Let's do 2 more.
Okay, I like this question from Ed Harrell. We know Ed out in New York. It was very nice to have the live Schmodown out there.
I thought you were going to say Ed Harris.
Ed Harris. No, but Ed Harrell. Ed, how are you? Number 1, he says, "Hi, Council. I'm doing my best to temper my expectations for Episode 9. The Mandalorian's Werner Herzog playing a villain. And then how are any of you doing something different this time around to temper expectations?" And he gives some examples of where maybe his expectations in the past were maybe they weren't met. The Force Awakens cast the raid crew. A lot of people were excited. Turned out it's just in the Rathtar sequence. Episode 9, he mentions some of the images that dropped last couple days. Who knows if it's true or not. So I think it's a great question in this time, as we're 2 weeks out from Celebration. Our joy is bubbling over. Some people might have been burnt before. Some people might have had too much joy. What do you think here?
I think you should always have expectations, and you should always hope for things you want to see. But you should also be prepared. Exactly what you're saying is that you always go in, very similar to Vegas, always expect to lose. Always expect to lose. Go to Vegas and expect to lose, but if you come home with some money, then great. And it's the same thing with these expectations on this movie. It's like
interesting.
You know what I mean? Go in there, you think like, you know what, it would be great if this happened, and if it does, skip out of the theater and say, I got what I wanted. So go in with 10 of them, and if one of them pays off, there you go.
I think that I go into things that way, but I look at it not so much as a expect to lose, as is go in with expectations, but go in with an open mind and expecting to enjoy yourself, but not necessarily have all your expectations be met.
That's pretty much exactly. But in layman's terms,
no, you know what? You're right. Because you specifically said Vegas, I'm like, you know what? It's fun even when you lose.
That's what it is. That's kind of what I mean. Is that you're gonna go in there, you're gonna have fun. But don't. If you have all these ideas of what you think is gonna happen, if it pays off, great. You're going home a winner. But if not, you lost, but you still went to Vegas.
And also, I think another thing to keep in mind mind is a lot of the time I think that we go into things with an expectation of wanting a certain thing to happen, and we misinterpret that thing not happening as the film being bad.
Right.
Instead of looking at it and going, you know what, that is something that I wanted, and I am disappointed that that did not happen. Now let's take that out of the equation and look at this piece of fiction again.
Star Wars is like Vegas. I'm going to win some money on the Game of Thrones slot, and at some point tell my friends, I think Vanity at Spearmint Rhino took my tie. So I think you're all saying the things that are in my heart, too. I don't think you should ever temper your passion for Star Wars.
Never.
But also, with all the fandoms, don't get so locked in. There's going to be good things, bad things. No secret, I love Last Jedi, but to tell you what, there's things in there that I don't like. There's things, Attack of the Clones is my least favorite Star Wars film. That scene with Obi-Wan and Count Dooku is one of my favorites in Star Wars. Open up your heart. Don't be afraid to enjoy it. Don't be afraid that, hey, not everything worked for you. It's still around. You still get to love it.
That's the thing. Look, because if Last Jedi, if I watch it, as I'm watching the movie still, do I secretly wish that the scene is almost going to rewrite itself and Luke's going to go, you know what? Let's go fight Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren.
Luke, yeah.
Yeah, I always hope that happens, but it isn't. So what I then will hope is that they show up, the Knights of Ren show up in Episode 9.
Yeah.
And if they do, fantastic. But if they don't, I've been calling that for a bit now, and people can call me a lunatic, that I think that Palpatine's going to come back.
I mean, that's fair.
It's fair.
Second part I agree with, but the first
lunatic part.
Fair.
But if I come back and if the first thing I know I'm going to embrace are the tweets going, "See Harloff, you idiot, no Palpatine," and it very well might be true. But I think that if it does happen, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to like it.
No.
If it does it the way that I hope that they can do it, I can go, wow, I wish they wouldn't have put Palpatine in.
Pops up like,
It's just like it's just like Potter Puppet Pals.
Yeah, there's tons of things in there that you hope happen, and like I just mentioned that there's a lightsaber fight. Like I hope to see more.
You want one, and you're going to get one.
I know, but what happens if again I get it? And I'm like, wasn't as satisfying as I hoped. It's all possibilities. And the other thing is, well, that was the best lightsaber fight out of all of them. It's the best one we've ever seen. So it's very similar to what you guys were just saying. Just go in and enjoy yourselves. Is that it? Is that everything?
That could be the last one. That's a good one to end.
That's a good one to end on, everybody. So listen, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Collider Jedi Council. 2 weeks away from Star Wars Celebration. We will be there. We hope that if you're there, you can come by and check us out at the Collider Jedi Council panel on Sunday or on Friday for the Schmodown that we are going to be doing there. And then, of course, Saturday night. If you want to get tickets Saturday night at the Athenaeum Theater, please do that at theshmodownlive.com. And I'd like to thank our guest today, Miss Emma Fyffe. Where can they find you?
You can find me all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold, at my name, Emma Fyffe. You can also find me at Star Wars Celebration, in addition to the Schmodown Jedi Council stuff that's going on. I also have a panel on that Monday, the last day of the convention. I think it's at 3 in the afternoon. There's a great graphic that Tyler Westhouse, who's moderating it, made for it, but it is with our dear friends Molly and Alex Damon are going to be on the panel as well. So come talk to us about creating communities in Star Wars.
Wow, you're going to be getting out of Chicago late.
I'm literally going from the panel to the airport.
Ken?
Hey, you can find me at Napzok, catnapzok.com. My book, Why We Love Star Wars, available for pre-order right now. Comes out May 15th at Star Wars Celebration. Can't wait. I cannot wait for the 5-way trivia battle. I think it's going to be spectacular.
You're going to call it with me.
So
I'm going to be calling that match. The live show, the Ellis Comedy Show. Star Wars Celebration is my favorite convention. Other than the 3M drunk trips to 7-Eleven at San Diego Comic-Con, this is the best one.
Those are fun.
Those are fun.
Have we done that every year?
Pretty much every year. They're fun. Yeah.
Really fun.
But KenNapzok.com for all the information.
All right. Thank you guys for me. Obviously, find me at Kristian Harloff, Twitter and Instagram, of course, Facebook, and check out TriviaSD.com. You want to check out all the. If you've never seen the Schmodown before, like, what the hell is it? Go over there and just check out TriviaSD.com. It has all of the articles and matches, and it's really great. Emma Fyffe helps run our Patreon, so please come join us over there, please. And that's it. So thank you so much. Subscribe to this podcast here, whether it's on the YouTube channel for Collider itself, subscribe, or go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever, Stitcher, to where you can listen every day on your way to work, the gym, whatever you do. You like Star Wars, you should listen to us. We'll see you 2 weeks from now at Celebration. If you're there, wave hello or say hello. That's probably better. Say hello. See you next time.